Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill. Depending on the video store, Dressed to Kill would either be under the D section in horror or it would be in the D section of drama because this was a classy movie that sometimes people would look in the dramas for it. I think we put it in drama. The fact that when De Palma finished Dressed to Kill, it originally received an X rating from the MPAA. I think it kind of comes down to 3 shots. It's 2 different shots of Angie Dickinson's bush in the shower, close-ups when she's showering. And then there's the effect in the elevator during the murder when she's sliced literally up the middle. But the fact that the movie starts with an erotic scene of characters we don't know, that we actually get to know through the eroticism. We know Kate Miller to some degree or another by the time that sequence is over. But without any introduction of the husband or the wife or the situation, we don't know that that's a fantasy at first when it's happening. That was fucking fantastic. I can't think of another movie other than like something that is just completely labeled as eroticism that would dare to start off with an erotic scene that truly erotic. And put us into that steamy, dreamlike world. Those were the things that were exercised to get the film an R. However, it became controversial because De Palma, it's only 3 seconds. De Palma made a big point about, they're screwing up my movie. And then he was joined by Pauline Kael, who backed him up and said, look, I saw Dressed to Kill before the MPAA cuts and I've seen it afterwards, and De Palma's version is better. And then people have said, well, we're talking about 3 seconds. And she goes, well, the artists like De Palma, 3 seconds matter. 3 seconds is the difference between good and great. And Warner Brothers, without making a big fucking deal about it, restored the movie back in the early 80s, by the way, back when the movie was only a couple of years old, to De Palma's original unrated cut. Dressed to Kill comes out at the height of the slasher film genre, 1980. The height of the slasher film genre. And then it gets rhapsodous reviews from the most established critic, especially female film critics. This being deemed as art by the high society film critics and especially the female film critics. So watching Dressed to Kill, because let's lose the Giallo aspect for just a second and just talk about the movie itself. Every one of De Palma's visual motifs is hit in Dressed to Kill. Media inside of media. Yeah. De Palma's the only one of the movie brats that, for the most part, at least when he did thrillers, wrote his own scripts, but he didn't start off as a screenwriter. He's more like a director writing stuff for himself to do, as opposed to Paul Schrader, as opposed to Francis Ford Coppola, as opposed to John Milius. By the time he does Dressed to Kill, now he's writing. Now he knows what he wants to do as a thriller. He's firmly established himself as the new master of the macabre. So he writes Dressed to Kill himself, and it actually ends up being a big script in Hollywood. People love it. I think it's too easy to make too much of the transgender aspect. It's just De Palma playing with schizophrenia. Well, taken directly from Hitchcock, taking it out of the realm of editorializing on transsexuals and turning it into Norman Bates, a schizophrenic character that does not know the existence of the 2 different personalities, that can have conversations with each other without knowing that they're the same person. It's Bobby is my favorite De Palma killer of all the villains, of all De Palma's villains. Bobby's my favorite, and it's a negative in the movie that we never have a scene from Bobby's perspective, but that's all harmless schizophrenia talk for a thriller. I don't think he's making a comment on transsexualism any more than Hitchcock's making a comment on transsexualism with Norman Bates and his mother. But one thing that needs to be talked about in this that we haven't mentioned is Dressed to Kill falls into a special subgenre of movie, and that is the paraphrased remake. Now, there's certain movies that are paraphrased remakes. They're not a remake per se of another movie, but they wouldn't exist without this one particular movie's existence. And when you watch it, if you know about that other movie, that's almost part of the enjoyment that you have watching this new movie. But in the case of Dressed to Kill, there are structure moments and there are scenes that the joke of the scene, the wit of the structure is the callback to Psycho. So like, for instance, the introduction of the Kate Miller character, Angie Dickinson's character. She's introduced as the lead of the movie and is killed in a big showpiece murder sequence about 40 minutes into the film. And then now the narrative is handed off to other characters. It keeps going on throughout. However, my favorite of the Psycho funhouse mirror reflections, is one of my favorite scenes in Psycho is Simon Oakland kind of explaining in words very similar to the ones that are used in Dress to Kill, Norman Bates' sexual psychosis at the end. Okay, this is why he did it all. Kind of Simon Oakland telling it like it is.
And we have Dr. Levy doing that in this film.
Sort of. We start to have the parody of the Psycho Simon Oakland scene with Dr. Levy. But then it jumps the ship, and now it has Nancy Allen delivering it to Keith Gordon. And what we don't see in the video is Mary Davenport sitting behind.
Yeah, because of the pan and scan.
Yeah.
Because of the loss in widescreen.
Sitting behind, I think, Keith Gordon, okay, listening to the blow-by-blow description of how a sex change operation works. So that's the real comedy of it, is realizing, oh my God, he's got Nancy Allen. She's doing the Simon. It starts off with Dr. Levy, but then it becomes Nancy Allen. And that's just a parody of the Simon Oakland scene. De Palma's always said that his rough cuts, as opposed to other directors, run shorter than other directors, because the thing is, he cuts out all the exposition scenes.
Yeah.
And he wants it just to work as visual storytelling, and then adds them as he needs to. So when he's writing the script, okay, I got to make sure that everybody understands this. So he makes it very, very clear on the page, but then he's hoping his imagery will supplant a lot of that description, and he can just little by little start peeling it back until it's just what's needed. Dress to Kill without that music, what would that even be? I mean, it's just a different movie. I mean, I can't even contemplate what it is. The team of Keith Gordon's Peter Miller, the young boy, and Nancy Allen, the high-priced prostitute, teaming up together in one of the most charming double acts I've ever seen in a horror film. I mean, they're just they're so charming together. They're so lovely. And without hitting a sexual aspect, there's something romantic about them together. It doesn't push it at all, but there's something romantic about it that gives it a sexy vibe without sexuality per se. I'm not looking necessarily for, I'm not looking for Keith Gordon to score. I'm kind of thinking if she didn't have that dream, he might have scored over the course of that weekend. I mean, but it's even kind of interesting that, like, Dennis Franz busts her balls, all right, through the whole film, only to find out at the end, well, no, that we just wanted the appointment book, all right? He was actually looking out for her. He never really thought she did. He wasn't going to arrest. Oh, this Ted from out of town, you better get him in town and downtown. It's the return of De Palma's New York, because De Palma, spent his whole early career filming New York. But he's a different guy.
It's not Greenwich Village.
By the time he films Dress to Kill, now it's about the Met. Now if he's renting out an apartment, it's on the fucking Upper West Side. Yeah. And that's the world that he explores this time. It's not Greenwich Village. Okay, so now, so let's move on to Alice Sweet Alice.
Oh, I love this movie.
La, 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 la. Okay, so now, when I was bringing up the idea of doing an American Giallo show, this was Eli's suggestion. He was like, oh, you got to add Alice Sweet Alice. It's completely an American Giallo. Now, I have not seen Alice Sweet Alice since it came out, all right, in
76.
Yeah.
Well,
I had never seen it.
It didn't come out in Los Angeles in 76. It didn't come out until after Brooke Shields' fame, and it was released as Alice Sweet Alice. So it came out either towards the end of 78 or the beginning of 79. It was much better and more impressive than I expected it to be, but I didn't necessarily like it. But then as time has gone on, its reputation and what Alfred Soul did has really kind of stayed in my mind. I was really looking forward for an excuse to watch it again. And this was my excuse. So I had a very interesting take on the whole thing. I'm looking forward to talk about that. Well, yeah, no, when I saw it, it was originally called Communion. Then when it was after Brooke Shields did Pretty Baby, then it was released as Alice Sweet Alice, pushing the Brooke Shields connection. And then it was released even a third time as Holy Terror. Now, let me bring up my reaction to the movie when I saw it. Originally, and then how I feel about it now. Okay, so like I said, I saw Alice Sweet Alice when it came out. I wasn't expecting it to be very good, but it's definitely an odd duck. It had its own odd quality, and it wasn't bad. I knew it wasn't a bad movie, but I didn't warm up to it. I didn't really like it per se. My biggest problem with Alice Sweet Alice as a movie is when it comes to tone, the film is perfect. The tone of the film is not only perfect, it's also perfectly unique to the movie itself. The film has bad pacing problems. The movie doesn't flow from one scene to the next scene. It's not herky, it's not jerky, it doesn't jerk from one scene to the next scene, but good scenes don't build on other scenes. There is this sequence is over and then another sequence starts and it takes a little bit to get into it and then it does. But there's not a flow. And I do think one of the things that the film needed was a more pronounced soundtrack. And I think, this is a movie that if it had a Morricone soundtrack, but especially Morricone, I think this is the one where I would give it to Morricone.
Morricone, for sure.
A more Italian laid on soundtrack that deals with the religious themes and deals with the religious choir kind of things. I think it would have actually held the movie together. I think it would have filled in those cracks and filled in those fissures
if you had a Bruno,
air pockets. I'd even go for Nico Fidenco. Well, Morricone is still the best choice for that. Okay, so and I do think that would have filled in the gap. There's another aspect. Okay, so why was I almost turned off while appreciating Alice Sweet Alice, where I was invigorated by Deep Red? Alice Sweet Alice violence is not sadistic. It is horrifying.
It's terrifying. It's
not fun. It wasn't fun when I was a kid watching it. It was really disturbing. And it's still disturbing to this day. There is not the neon buzz of fun and sexuality and cinema even going on during it. No, I think those flaws stop it from actually entering Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Brood, Rabid category. But it's just slightly underneath, and probably has better production design than and even costume design than the other ones put together.
That's all incremental. Well, maybe not. That's probably a personal taste.
Maybe not Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
but the others,
yeah. La 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 la, which is similar to the plastic mask that the killer in New Year's Evil wears, isn't it? Yeah. Well, we talked about that. One of the things that's really strong about the movie is, on one hand, it feels like a regional horror film, like a kind of horror film that would be shot in Cleveland or something like that. And you're using Cleveland actors.
Don't go in the basement or whatever.
Yeah. However, there is a distinctive New Jersey element, and the only other movie that really has that really distinctive New Jersey element is Don't Go in the House. But the thing is, while they do seem like extremely good regional actors, that's also because he's close enough to New York, all right, to get actual legit New York acting talent, all right, to appear in his film. There is an aspect of this is like a New Jersey version of Don't Touch or a Duck. Well, they definitely. Well, also it's the emphasis on Catholicism that also makes it feel very much like a Giallo and it gives it Italian Roman origins. Yeah. But here's the thing about it though. As we were watching the movie, I was putting it under the microscope a little bit about, why is this so well done compared to other films of its ilk? While Alice Sweet Alice doesn't have any more money or any larger a budget than other movies made of its time and of its ilk, I think it's pretty obvious he had more time making it. He had a length to his shooting schedule that is not normal for this type of movie, and you can tell by the unheard of number of setups he does in the course of scene. But even more than that, it feels like he has time. This does not feel like a rushed production in any way. Not an elephantine production. It has all the time in the world, and they had too much time. But there's
you can tell
almost part of 70s low-budget cinema is the rush aspect is built into its DNA. And when you see a film that's not rushing, you notice it. He also suffered the same thing that happened to Tobe Hooper. He was attached to this project and that project, and then things happened that made him drop out just before. Like the way Tobe Hooper almost directed The Dark. And then got fired. And then he almost directed Venom and he got fired. I remember a lot of different Fangoria and Cinema Fantastique notices that Albert Soule was going to be directing something or other, and then it turned out he dropped out. Happened. He's so legitimately creepy. He's creepier than any K&B creation could ever possibly be. And I felt that from the time that I saw him. I mean, there was almost one of the is this guy a real guy? Not his personality per se, but just the creepiness that is him. Well, but it's interesting though. It's a weird kind of grotesque. Okay, you can't stop looking at him.
Yeah.
He's mesmerizing to look at. It's not like I can't look away. I can't tear my eyes away. Alice is a really great character. She really is. The mother gives a fantastic performance. Yes. I mean, really, really terrific.
Yeah, no, the ant is like sparkle motion.
No, the ant is like a character out of a John Waters movie, but he's not bad.
He's not bad.
He's not bad, but he's not as good as the he's not as good as the priest, Father Tom, and he's definitely not as good as. But he's not bad though. I liked him by the end. By the end, I liked him. Well, he looks like a soap opera actor. As a matter of fact, he reminds you of somebody that would be on Mary Hartman. Yeah, but that's a positive thing.
Which he was.
And then it ends with
this track.
Well, the best last shot of the entire quadruple of movies. The last shot is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, the way it goes with moving bag, then on the bag, then on the knife, then on Alice. I also think that also part of the thing that I was actually confused about when I saw it when it first came out is I didn't think it was a mystery at first. I thought, well, no, obviously Alice is doing it. Okay, and I'm going to say something that I haven't said up until now, but since we haven't revealed the killer on this one, let's not reveal the killer on this one.
Okay.
I think that is part of the fun of that movie. We won't reveal it. And I could actually talk about that character a lot because there's a lot to talk about that character. But let's not on this one. La, 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 la. Happy birthday to me, and in honor of my birthday that was yesterday. We've just had some ice cream cake and some other chocolate kind of cake, right? That all had on it, happy birthday to me. And we're all vibrating from, basically, we just took a bunch of reds. Like, quit messing around, man! Literally feel the need to smoke a blunt, all right, to counteract the birthday cake. All right? So now our fourth film that I feel fits into the Giallo mode is one of my favorite directors, J. Lee Thompson, is his Canadian-made film Happy Birthday to Me, starring Melissa Sue Anderson, Glenn Ford, Lawrence Dane, and a whole bunch of other people. Now, when the film came out during the time of the slasher films, and it was set up to be a slasher, and it is. It still qualifies completely as a slasher. But slashers and giallos are not the same, and the fact that this movie manages to completely walk the line between both of them actually is an achievement, I think. It's a movie playing with a zillion amount of red herrings, so it's your job to deduce who amongst this list of suspects is the killer. Then the film seemingly tells you who the killer is about midway through, and you're not prepared for the answer. And then it starts going on a whole other track than it's been going, only like a giallo to jump the track a third time. It's entertaining. It's
entertaining as hell.
No, I don't buy it. Oh, that's fucking bullshit. No, you don't say that. No, it actually makes the movie. Yeah, the whole film qualifies as a giallo, but could also be called a slasher simultaneously. But the fact that the past trauma backstory is so ridiculously crazy, that's what officially puts it in the term of a giallo. And we've already had nothing but batshit crazy explanations of why the killer has killed on this quadruple feature that we had. This is still the craziest one. It's the movie.
Yeah,
it is literally,
it has fun with it.
Which again is the thing that makes it not a faux giallo, but an actual giallo.
No, it's
black leather gloves.
Black leather gloves? Check.
Even though every character in the movie wears black leather gloves. No, they're trying to make it feel American.
And also,
right? A Canadian movie goes out of its way to make movies feel American. That's my boy, Jay Lee. Well, look, he made a mark for himself, like doing thrillers. One of the things that makes J. Lee Thompson an auteur is he's one of cinema's lovable degenerates.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The fact that he finds really questionable relationships and really questionable sexuality, and the fact that he seems to be turned on by him and then presents them in a way that's not condemnation against them, is actually accepting of them, is an auteur trait that follows from movie to movie to movie to movie. If she's turning 18, it's obviously a high school, but it's like an academy that runs like a college. Because to me, the kids just absolutely remind me of the kids from St. Elmo's Fire. Even in that tavern that they hang out with might as well be the St. Elmo's Fire tavern. But it's and the cars that they drive and the scarves that they wear. It's a really enjoyable collection of these type of horror movie cliches that done in just the right spirit with a very energetic cast in a quick, entertaining way that just keeps it up. It keeps the juggling balls flowing. No, she's really, great. Really good at it. She did actually a really fun TV movie around the same time. I don't know. I think it was just before maybe she did Happy Birthday to Me or just afterwards. a juvenile delinquent movie where she's like a young girl that's brought into a juvenile delinquent gang that's causing problems, directed by Jack Starrett, called The Survival of Dana. I had forgot about that sequence, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking disturbing. When the brain starts growing out of the hole in the skull. Well, also, I would also say that there is a symbiotic connection to the whole last sequence and the whole reveal to Happy Birthday to Me to the very first Scream.
Oh, yeah.
The storyline of the very first Scream follows kind of closely the backstory line of Happy Birthday to Me. Yeah, it does. You know, even to the point of where they have that the father is like kind of tied up and been hidden for most of the movie. And they pretty much describe it in the same cockamamie way that the killer describes it in this. Well, actually, frankly, when the killer explains how it happened, you can go back and, no, it's all happening because the killer indoctrinated her into the group. When you go backwards and think about it. Now, okay, but right up there in Giallo land with the ridiculousness of the reveal of the killer and then the crazy story that is backed up by why they're doing all these murders is, again, straight out of an Italian movie. The hysterical past traumatic incident that put Melissa Sue Anderson in the hospital involving her mother. Mm-hmm. That whole scene is one of the best scenes that we saw, all right? It's so over the top. It seems like a weird, bad dubbing of one of those Italian crazy sequences. And if Melissa Sue Anderson was actually the killer, that's a pretty good triggering reason for her to go on this.
Hell yeah.
Especially if she doesn't know what she's doing, if she's schizophrenic. The whole thing that happens at the beginning.
Oh my God.
That's actually a better motivation than most of these other killers have. Yeah. And by the way, that backseat murder has a lot of really good sexual terror in it. There's a whole, there's a lot of kicking legs.
Ripping up the ceiling, ripping up the
fabric of the ceiling of the car. And by the way, I'm a big fan of that actress. She's kind of a Canadian scream queen. That's Leslie Donaldson, who is the star of William Fruit's Funeral Home, which I'm a big fan of. But she's also in Curtains and a couple of other ones as well. Well, she's smart until she gets 5 feet and stops and starts looking around.
Then you're like,
and then gets another 5 feet and stops and starts looking around. We're just waiting for the shish kebab to show up. We couldn't help but mention it, okay? Oh, let's have some peppery beef and then make out. One of my favorite cliches in movies, when they don't show who the killer is, just their lower torso and their shoes walking in there, and that they're coming in as the killer, and they're like, oh, wow, it's you. Great to see you. Hey, what's with that knife? And then at the top of the batshit crazy things is the mask technology that would put Mission Impossible to shame. But I kind of loved it. I really did. Well, that whole sequence actually does work. That whole birthday party does work. But then you have the whole thing at the beginning when the kids are playing chicken with the rising bridge and everything. And that's really exciting. The one guy with the girls that don't want to go on the jump does the jump. You go, okay. Everything Glenn Ford says is a fucking red flag to this idea. My favorite relationship between a psychiatrist and his patient in the history of cinema is Melissa Sue Anderson and her doctor, Dave. Yeah, okay, not Dr. Bennings or whatever. No, it's just Dave. Well, you don't even need to be in Jay Lee land to all of a sudden. I think even when the day the movie was released, I think people were like, what's kind of up between those two? He's not this older man, fatherly authority figure. They're trying to make Glenn Ford look as handsome as Glenn Ford can look at this age. There is a sexy quality to Glenn Ford with his cool white shirts, his Italian cool white shirts with his cool black sweater on and everything. Oh, what did I call it? Happy herring to me?
It's herring jam, so to speak.
Herring in the Henderson.
Yeah.
Just smoke a blunt. Just smoke a blunt. All right. Just smoke a blunt. Just smoke a blunt. All right. Quit messing around! Okie doke, and we're back. And now we're following it up with Irv Kershner's Eyes of Laura Mars. Eyes are like a prisoner, I'm captured by your eyes. Yes, but I think we had that for sure in the horror section. So that would be under the E's in horror. And as we were watching it, it was, okay, not only is it passing the test of being an American Giallo, truly could have been an Italian movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a Giallo homage. No, it is practically a Giallo. This exact movie, this exact screenplay could have been done in Italy with Umberto Lenzi directing it. But it is kind of fascinating when we're watching it. Nothing about the movie seems authentic, from the police investigation to the portrayal of the cop to even the portrayal of her level of celebrity. Especially not the gimmick of seeing through the killer's eyes, randomly whenever they kill. But the one thing that is absolutely authentic is the direction of the photo shoots.
Yeah.
That are laid out. There's nothing fanciful about them. They're exactly realistic. I've been on David LaChapelle photo shoots, and they are just like what's presented in Eyes of Laura Mars.
Yeah.
But then also the way it captures a uniquely authentic but different high-class Manhattan than Dressed to Kill. This captures the disco Manhattan. And this movie has one of the best disco soundtracks of its era. And then also, just to make the point of it, though, when I saw the movie, after the movie came out, I went and got the soundtrack album. Now, I liked the Barbra Streisand song, but I got it for the ha-ah-a-a, let's all chant. That's why I got the record. Your body, my body. Okay, well, I don't think we've described the storyline quite exactly well enough so far. So the idea is, eyes are like a prisoner, I'm captured by your eyes. Laura Mars has become this ridiculously famous celebrity, but apparently a household name. But she seems even more popular than that. Yeah. Right? Like, she's been on the Tonight Show a bunch of times.
Annie Leibovitz or something.
Yeah, she seems more famous than all of those guys put together. She's as famous as Faye Dunaway in the movie. So she's a world famous celebrity photographer whose specialty is taking beautiful women and creating an aspect of murder to them, and that's how she sells the products. And then it becomes clear later in the movie that she's just has these wild random images of murder and death, and then she redoes them as fashion layouts. She redoes them as these art pieces that include these little flashes. Okay, here's the real photo that happened at the Mayflower Hotel, and then here's your photo shoot photo. So this is going on, but then somebody in her circle is murdered, and when the murder in her circle happens, she actually is able to watch the murder. She sees through the POV of the killer during the murder. And then it happens again, and then it happens again, and they're killing off her friends.
Everyone in her circle.
And her entourage. And it's disconcerting to her, aside from the fact that when she puts together what's going on, but it's also when she's seeing through the eyes of the killer, she can't see what's in front of her. She can only see the killer's eyes, which makes it really cool. In one of the better scenes in the movie is when the killer goes to attack her, and all of a sudden she sees through the killer's eyes, but she's seeing herself being chased.
Yeah.
And she's running blind.
Yeah. And
which brings to mind the strange shadows in an empty room blind girl scene. And very much like Happy Birthday to Me, they all take turns looking guilty. Not to compare the two movies in quality wise, but like what's happening in Dressed to Kill and what's happening in Eyes of Laura Mars could literally be happening 3 blocks away from each other. They are happening simultaneously 3 blocks away from each other. At any point, these lead characters could cross by each other. Yeah, Kate Miller could totally walk by Laura Mars.
They would know each other.
I remember liking Laura Mars better than I did when we watched it. And I even saw it fairly recently, like within the last 2 years. I watched it with my wife Daniela, because I thought she'd get a kick out of it, and she did. She liked all the fashion stuff going on. The first half is not a Giallo homage; it is a legit Giallo. This is exactly the kind of screenplay you expect to come out of Tatanas or something. Mm-hmm. But then the John Peters part comes in, where Tommy Lee Jones, who plays the cop, and Laura Mars, who plays the photographer, are attracted to each other, and they fall in love. And then right in the middle of the movie becomes a love story. Laura Mars throws her character completely out the window from that point on. It's just everything is about love and devotion, love and devotion, love and devotion. And Tommy Lee Jones seems to throw his character out the fucking window. All right. He's all about her than as about the case. I would agree with all that, except, I mean, her dialogue literally is reduced to, oh, I love you so much. Oh, I love you so much. I adore you. I can't live without you. Eyes are like a prisoner. I'm captured by your eyes. In a weird way, it proves as subterfuge when it actually turns back into a Giallo again, more of a Giallo than it's ever been before. Yeah, when it comes to the wrap up. The first 35 minutes of this movie is flawlessly directed. There's not a misstep in it as far as I'm concerned. It holds that dream
Yeah.
for about 35 minutes. And then the wonky plotting gets involved, and then the wonky to it, but then, I don't know if it's good, but it's kind of great the way it comes back and for its final climax. Okay, so I'm going to ruin the end. I was almost wondering about maybe we shouldn't reveal this, but actually it's the thing about the movie that's worth talking about. This could be a Giallo trope, but it's also just a trope of wannabe thrillers where you have the boyfriend, fiance, husband character who's been completely straight and legit the entire movie. Through a crazy monologue, he has to reveal that now he is the killer. And it's usually accompanied by a me-so-crazy performance that the actor has not given up until now. And Tommy Lee Jones in this movie does my second favorite me-so-crazy monologue reveal for that type of character. My favorite is Paul Michael Glazier's me-so-crazy performance reveal in John Huston's Phobia, which could almost be a Giallo as well. With a ridiculous backstory that would have made Ernesto Gastaldi proud. A backstory so crazy, that's what reveals to Faye Dunaway he's the killer. But just like in Dressed to Kill, the character is a complete schizophrenic that does not know that two personalities are existing inside of one person.
That smells so good. I want everybody to know what we're doing here.